Why is it that United States and NATO regimes seek to destabilize and overthrow the Iranian government? Let's see. Hello and welcome to Political Aficionado. I'm your host, Hassan Safarnajad, and today we are going to talk about why United States and NATO regimes are seeking to destabilize and overthrow the Iranian government. I have to take a different approach than most people when talking about the Iranian riots. It's very easy to get into the rabbit hole of, publishing every different video and then analyzing these different videos, reading too much into the details of them, follow the news. And these things are okay. I'm not saying that these things are not okay to do. But sometimes paying too much attention to the details can make us forget about the bigger picture, the larger picture at play here, which I think that this is the case with regards to the Iranian riots. So many people just get into this rabbit hole again of looking at every video that comes out of Iran, that it renders them, it disables sort of their ability of analyzing things on the larger scale. That's why, again, I'm going to take a different approach. Well, I don't know how much you know about Iran, but in 1953 there was a coup d'etat in Iran by United States with the corporations of Britain. They overthrew the democratically elected government of Dr. Mohammad Mossadegh, and the reason that they did it was because of Iran's natural resources. More particularly, they did it because of the oil. People don't understand how big of a deal this was, because Dr. Mossadegh spent a month and a half in the United States, so he had a very positive outlook and perspective on United States government. But ultimately, United States decided that it's not worth it. They're better off having this master-servant relationship with the monarch in Iran rather than having this equal partnership with the Prime Minister of Iran, Dr. Mohammad Mossadegh. So they overthrew the Iranian government. The sad part is that they did it so easily and it didn't cost them a lot of money. There is an interview of Kermit Roosevelt, and he says that I had $1 million in order to overthrow the Iranian government, and I only used $60,000. That says a lot. So, we have that history. We have that history of United States seeking to, take control of the Iranian resources. Iran has the largest fossil fuel reserves. I say fossil fuels because it's the combination of gas and oil. So let me see. Iran has the fourth biggest oil reserves in the world, and it has the second largest gas reserves. So it's rare that a country has both of these resources to such great length, right? So Russia is the biggest holder of gas, but it doesn't have large amounts of oil. It has a lot of oil, but it doesn't rank in the top 5 countries, top 6 countries that have the largest gas in the world. Largest oil in the world. But again, Iran has the second largest gas reserves, and it has the fourth largest oil reserves in the world. which says a lot, is also more important because when you look at the country that has the largest oil reserve in the world, that's Venezuela. But there's a problem with their oil. The oil in Venezuela, it's very heavy. So I'm not an expert on chemistry, and the things that I know is very rudimentary and basic. But it seems that the heavy oil is not really good oil. It needs to be improved so that it would be consumable for different devices and different refineries and petroleum companies and things like that. And that's why they need gas, condensate gas, in order to improve their oil, to make it higher quality. This process is apparently called oil bending, in which using again gas condensate, they improve the quality of this heavy oil, which is not really apparently that good. So that's considering the fact that this is the case with Venezuela's oil reserves. You'll get a better understanding of why Iran is so important, right? And and this becomes very, very important considering the fact that currently we are facing an energy crisis in the world. Western countries are, dealing with trouble keeping their businesses, running because they are sort of bound to, abide by these sanctions that United States has imposed on Russian oil. So that seems to be rendering their ability of keeping their businesses up and running to a great degree. A lot of people are talking about the industrialization of Europe, which is going to take a few years. It's not going to happen immediately, but it's something in the making. That's why a government in Iran that would have a subservient relationship with these countries, these regimes, would be very, very preferable to both United States and the European regimes. 40 foreign nationals were arrested in the Iranian riots, which shows you how much they're invested in the so-called revolution in Iran. I oftentimes say that it is supposed to be the Iranian revolution, but it seems that the foreigners are more active, in pushing the revolution. So that's one thing, the natural resources that Iran has. The second thing is the role that Iran is now playing in the world on the global stage. So since the beginning of the Ukraine war, and if we want to be more specific, since the start of the sanctions that have been imposed on Russia, Iran has played a pivotal role in order to neutralize United States and again NATO countries' attempt in making the situation hard for Russia. Iran is helping Russia to a great deal. Currently, Iran is exporting construction materials, designer clothes, Coca-Cola and Pepsi, gas turbines. I think that 40-something gas turbines are meant to be shipped to Russia because Iran produces these advanced gas turbines. In fact, they're so good that in comparison to the same model designed and manufactured by Germany, they're 2% more optimized. In high tech, when we talk about optimization, 2% is a lot. And considering all the other things that are, making the situation hard for Russians to deal with Germans, it's a pretty good deal to have this kind of relation with Iran. Let me elaborate on what I just said. These gas turbines obviously from time to time need to be overhauled and repaired. Germany does not repair these gas turbines. So Russia has to send it to Germany, then Germany sends it to Canada, then Canada repairs these gas turbines, and then send it back to Germany. Okay? And then Germany sends it to Russia. So as you can see, there are unnecessary steps, and there's a bureaucracy that is affecting this process, right? So obviously, when Russia purchases these gas turbines from Iran, it just has to deal with Iran, right? It can just send the gas turbines to Iran, and Iran will repair them and send it back to Russia. That's on its own is considered to be a great thing for Russia, right? Removing the bureaucracy. But that's not all. I'm going to talk about the Iranian drones, since I know that a lot of people are very interested to know what's what with regards to the drones that are being used in Ukraine. So a lot of people are saying that Geranium 2 is Iranian Shahed 136. And this is true and false at the same time. It's very complicated. One of the reasons that people are shocked about this is due to the fact that they do not listen to the Iranian experts. They allow these foreigners, like Kevin from Ohio, to talk about Iran. What the hell does Kevin know about Iran, right? But to us, to people who actually follow the news, we all knew that before the start of Ukrainian war, Russia actually reached out to Iran, and they asked to receive the Iranian drone technology. Again, this goes back to the point in time that was actually before the start of Ukraine war. So since people do not know that, they're just shocked by what they are seeing right now. But again, Russians did request to receive Iranian drone technology, and Iran accepted on one condition, that they're not going to receive money for that, right? We're not going to sell them our drone technology. We are going to have technology exchange. So we are willing to export to them our drone technology, and then in return they have to export a technology to Iran. Unfortunately, I don't know what the Russians actually provided Iran with. I'm dying to know, but we don't know. People are speculating, but I can tell you that a lot of the speculations with regards to the technology that Russia has transferred to Iran is just total nonsense. They don't know what they're talking about. But getting back to the drones situation, again, we don't know what's happening in Ukraine. I have to be very, very clear about that. The Iranian FM recently said that Iran provided Russia with a few drones. I shouldn't say a few. The way that he put it, it said تعداد محدود, which means limited number. But that can mean anything, right? Like 100 is a limited number, 1,000 is a limited number. So I don't know what exactly he said, but pay attention. He said that we provided Russia with a limited number of drones prior to the initiation of the special operation in Ukraine. So again, we don't know these Geranium-2 drones that are being used in Ukraine, whether they are from Iran or whether this is the technology that Iran transferred to Russia, and Russians are just simply, manufacturing these drones on them by themselves. We don't know that, and there is also another possibility that these drones are coming from a third party, since Iran has actually licensed its drones to different factories in different countries. For example, in Tajikistan, in that country, Ababil 2 drones are being manufactured. But whatever the case might be, again, which is very hard for us to actually know the truth, maybe for years, but so far what we know is that this seems to be Iranian tech. We don't know if it's Iranian made. What we know that it is Iranian tech. The technology comes from Iran. This seems to be the case. And again, this isn't speculation, but I've listened to people who are not hawkish, these military experts who have a very good track record. They say that this technology comes from Iran. So obviously that adds to the initiative that the Americans have in order to destabilize Iran. That's another factor. But again, it's not just that. Since United States and European countries have sanctioned Russia, Iran has offered a very important service to Russian government. When the sanctions began, the Minister of Transportation in Russia did an interview, and in that he said, currently we are seeking help from Iran in order to procure these plane parts that we need in order to repair our civilian planes, right? Airplanes. So that's one other thing that Iran has done. Iran is very good in bypassing sanctions, neutralizing sanctions. I'm going to give you an example of how good Iran actually is in bypassing sanctions. So those who are interested in knowing and following the news about the military stuff, they know that most of the Iranian Air Force is made up of this American-made fighter jet, F-14. Unfortunately, it's obvious that United States is not going to sell the repair parts that Iran needs in order to maintain these F-14s. So what did Iran do? We could go to the third parties in order to receive those parts, but there's a problem. No other country except Iran and United States were ever the user of F-14s. So this is not a possibility. We couldn't just simply go to countries like Turkey or Indonesia or countries like that and say, guys, you have F-14s. Why don't you just purchase the repair parts from United States, and then we are going to purchase those repair parts from you with interest. This was not an option. So what did Iran do? We actually imported the parts that we needed in order to maintain our F-14s from United States itself. They use different methods in order to bypass sanctions. I'm not familiar with the details of the situation, as I think that it is very obvious, because it's considered to be something that if Americans know how to do, they would shut this this whole process down, obviously. Of course, nowadays it's not possible for Iran to bypass sanctions that it used the way that it used to do, since more sophisticated sanctions have been imposed on Iran. Which brings me to this other point. The sanctions that have been imposed on Russia are not as complicated and as harsh as it is on countries like Syria, on Iran, on Cuba. So dealing with these sanctions is just very, very easy for a country like Iran. And that's what Iran has been doing. Iran is providing Russia with plane parts. Iran is purchasing Russian wheat and then sell it for Russia. Iran is purchasing Russian gas and then sell it on behalf of Russia. And this is obviously a very important service that Iran is providing with Russia, and obviously the collaboration and the ties between Iran and Russia are being strengthened to a great deal thanks to things like this. Apart from this, again, there are other things that Iran is exporting to Russia. For example, like I already mentioned construction materials, but things like home appliances. Iran is also exporting home appliances to Russia. What else? Let's see. Let's talk about the transportation, the transit corridor. So many people are now talking about this transit corridor called International North-South Transport Corridor. The way that Russia exports its goods to a country like India, they have to go through Baltic Sea, North Sea, bypass the European continent, get into the Mediterranean Sea, go through Suez Canal, pass through the Red Sea, pass through Bab al-Mandab Strait, and then get into the Sea of Oman and deliver the goods to the Mumbai port in India. Okay, that's one of the routes that Russia can use. This route is 16,000 kilometers long. Alternatively, Russia can only use the railroad systems in Iran and deliver the goods by just going through Iran. They send the goods through ferries, through the vessels, by passing through Caspian Sea. Then they can use the railroad networks that are available in Iran and get into the Sea of Oman and deliver their goods to the port of Mumbai in India. That's the way that they can do it. In comparison to the route that I just mentioned, the Suez Canal route, this path is only 7,200 kilometers long. So 16,000 kilometers in comparison to 7,200 kilometers. That's a very considerable difference that these two routes have with one another. Another thing is that this route, obviously being shorter, is faster. I think the cargoes that are being shipped through International North-South Transport Corridor arrive 20 days sooner, and it saves something like 30% of the transit costs. So faster, cheaper, and let's remember that the Suez Canal route is dominated by the NATO countries. So the International North-South Transport Corridor is actually safer too. They don't need to worry about the ship being confiscated or harassed in a way by the NATO countries. So that's another thing. So these are very important services or products that Iran is providing Russia with. Obviously, currently the big baddie in the world is Russia, I mean, it has been for years, but these days, United States is doing everything that it can in order to destabilize Russia. And obviously, when Russia has this friend, Iran, that helps it to such great extent, obviously, if you go after Iran, then you will render Russia's ability in order to sustain its economy, right? As again, a lot of services that they need today are being provided by Iran. Iran and Russia are also working on this monetary system. I shouldn't say monetary system. It's a sort of messaging system that is meant to be an alternative for the SWIFT banking system. So we have that as well. So these two, Russia and Iran, are posing a very serious threat to United States hegemony. The reason that I'm not including China in this is very simple. Obviously, China is the second largest economy in the world if you take into consideration the GDP nominal criteria. If you take into the account that GDP purchasing power parity makes more sense, I mean, at least that's the way that it is to me, then China is the biggest economy in the world. But the thing is that China is really concerned about the sanctions that might be imposed on them due to collaboration with Russia. That's why initially this bank in China was supposed to go into Russia, and it was supposed to issue these UPay cards. I think it's called UPay, but I have to check. I will subtitle it in the video if I found out that I said the name wrong. But I think it was UPay. UPay was supposed to go to Russia and issue these cards for the Russians. Unfortunately, China backed down from doing that. Again, because of the very real and possible threat of sanctions being imposed on them. But obviously, Iran doesn't fear that since it's already sanctioned to hell and back. So that's not an issue for Iran. But again, that's the reason that I didn't include China in this fight against the United States hegemony. I'm sure that in many ways they are actually collaborating, cooperating with both Iran and Russia to do so. But these days they seem to be on a little bit averse to making risks. That's just the way that it seems to me. But going back to the main point, obviously, it is very important for United States and NATO countries to destabilize Iran in order to push back against Russia, right? People don't know this, but in both World War I and World War II, some people don't know this, a lot of people also know it. During both World War I and World War II, Iran was occupied by the Western governments as it was deemed to be bridge to victory. More specifically in World War II, in which the British actually sent weapons to Soviet Union, and it played a major role in helping Soviet Union fighting the Nazis. So obviously, if you destabilize Iran, if you overthrow its government, then you will render Russia's ability to access open seas. Now let's not forget, Turkey blocked Russia from accessing Bosphorus. I'm sorry, that name is very hard for me to pronounce, so I will use the text in order to show it somewhere in this. In the screen too. Um, so that's another thing. And obviously, whatever pressure that they can put on Russia is considered to be desirable. Uh, what else? It's not just Russia. Yeah. It's all the things that Iran did in Venezuela, Syria, Ethiopia, Algeria, uh, obviously Iraq, Yemen, and this is also another thing that these Western governments can't really tolerate. Spending way too much money on backing these Takfiri groups in Syria. All of this money that they spent on doing that was wasted because Iran actually took initiative. It got involved in Syria, it got involved in Iraq, and it pushed back against ISIS. Let's not forget, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, in an email to Hillary Clinton, said that Al-Qaeda is on our side. So obviously, Iran, by getting involved, actually stopped one of the main agendas of United States and these NATO regimes. So obviously that creates another incentive. Right now, there are very exciting news coming out of Venezuela. I'm not going to get into too much details, but I'm just going to quote the Venezuelan president, Mr. Nicolas Maduro. In a press conference, he referred to his visit to Iran as going to future. So he said that I went to future and I have brought future back with me. It seems that the Iranian officials took him to Mapna Group, which is one of the most advanced conglomerates in Iran, and these guys produce everything. Their main focus is on producing the equipment for power plants, but they also produce a lot of other things. They produce electric cars, so many different things. It's a giant conglomerate. But obviously, what Iran is doing with regard to Venezuela, Syria, Iraq, and Yemen also has a role to play in all this taking place in Iran. So these were a few points that I wanted to make so that you guys know that we're talking about a lot of money, right? A lot of time people talk about the importance of following money's trail in order to know other people's incentives. And I just laid down the economic incentives that these regimes have in order to destabilize Iran. I hope that this video has been informative for you. I do apologize if the quality is not really, that great. I'll try to improve the quality of production as we go along. If you like this video, please subscribe to this channel, click on the like button, comments down below, let me know what I can what I can do in order to increase the quality of the video. What else do you want to know about this particular topic and the topics and other topics that you actually are interested in knowing about? So that's it. Until later, I guess take care of yourself. Bye.